Good afternoon, Professor. My name is Pulkit Malhotra, and the topic allocated to me is on RX norm. Before studying RX norm, we must know why there is a need to study RX norm. Is it a medical terminology? Yes, it is. RX norm is nothing but a medical terminology. But before that, why do we really need a medical terminology? Because sharing medical information is hard. Now, for instance, there might be two different EHR systems in two different hospitals, and sharing data between them could be difficult. Yes or no? Yes. Meaning and context can be changed or can be lost while sharing. Some words have different meanings, different words have similar meanings. It does happen. In medical context, communicating clearly is critically important. Now, now we must know what is medical terminology. It is a set of specialized terms that facilitate precise communication by minimizing or eliminating ambiguity. What are the features of terminology? First, it has a unique identifier, it has an official name, and in some cases synonyms too. For example, CPT, ICD-10, RX norm, these are all medical terminologies. But why there was a need of medical terminology? The problem lied in US. US lacked a centralized healthcare data system. For example, Joe, living in US, had a bad cough with a lot of mucus. So, doctor prescribed him Obradon. Now, when he went to the pharmacy and asked for Obradon, the healthcare system wasn't able to understand Obradon because in EHR system, Obradon was as hydrocodone biturate guaifenesin oral solution, which was nothing but Obradon itself. So there was some error, and Joe wasn't able to get the drug on time. So RX norm basically provide interoperability. It basically created a new standardized drug terminology which could be understand or which could be understood by two different healthcare systems so that sharing of the data becomes easier. So what is an RX norm? A standardized naming system to codify clinical drugs? Yes. It is also a national standard for coding clinical drugs in the US. It is also a tool for supporting semantic interoperation between different systems, like I mentioned above. It is basically a intersection between humans, computers, and healthcare, mainly the drug information in the healthcare. RxNorm, there are other um, um, terminology systems like RxNorm, MTHSPL, GS, and MSF. RxNorm in the ecosystem as e-prescribing, clinical research, aggregate and analyze prescription data sets, research data management, basically a data management plan to make data findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable. This is what RxNorm offers. For instance, RxNorm in a clinical research, RxNorm allows a population-based studies for prescription drugs. Like Joe was taking an opioid. Now researchers wants to know about the prescribing pattern in Joe's country. RxNorm can help. Prescription medications already coded with RxNorm can yield to faster results. So what is an RX norm? RX norm is basically two things. One, standardized clinical drug terminology in which an ingredient strength dose form is there with brand name and RX norm concept unique identifier. Like in the two examples below, guaifenesin 40 mg per ml, it has a brand name Obradon with RxQ number 1598284. But in the second case, there is no brand name. It's just guaifenesin with different RxQ number, which means that the second example is a generic drug, while the Obradon has a brand name with that. A generic name does not have a brand name with that. And also, it's basically a curated collection of drug names, curated collection of information sources. It's a database kind of from where normalized names and codes, basically a source for drug information as well. You can consider it that. How can we access RX norms? RX norms can be accessed, RX norm files, download pages, RX norm related application programming interfaces, APIs, which allows web-based access using pre-installed queries. And the most easier one is RX norm web-based browser, RX NAV. We can access it from there. RX, these are the links from where you can access RX norm. These are my references from where I read and created this presentation. Thank you so much, Professor. Thanks a lot.